Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming by. This is Chris Petri, and we're going to be doing an extreme beginners painting here. So we're going to do a pencil drawing and a painting. We're using our Prang watercolor set here. So we have the Prang watercolor set that comes with a great pointy round brush that comes with the set as well. So here, if you're just starting out in watercolors, there's no reason to go out and spend a lot of money on expensive gear, because you might not like watercolors. You might work with it for a couple months and say, you know what, I'd rather do clay and do sculpture, or maybe I might want to, you might say I want to do pastels instead of watercolors. Watercolors are too difficult, or whatever else. Watercolors are not an easy is not an easy medium. It does take some time. Anyone can master it and do it well. It just takes time and patience and a little bit of know-how and just getting the right information. That's why you're here. I'm excited you're here. We're going to go forward here with our drawing and painting. So again, my Prang watercolor set, and it looks like this. On the top of the paint set, there's a cover that looks like this, and it's Prang Oval 16 colors, and these are very inexpensive. I get mine for about $5 or $6 online. And so we have our watercolor set, and that comes with this brush, the round brush, the Prang brush, and then we might just have a couple extra brushes in our lineup here. We have these are really nice. Princeton makes these, Princeton Art and Brush Company. And these are some flat brushes. This one's 5/8. I have a larger one if we're working with really large paper, but we're using a smaller paper today, so we really won't need a large square brush more than this. And I also have another watercolor brush. This one is it's called Simply Simmons number 6, and it's a good round brush. It's got a nice point there, a nice sharp point. You can also flatten it out like that. So you can get some interesting painting marks on your paper from this kind of brush. You can mold the top of the brush and get a fine point, as well as a larger flat style brush with it in one brush. So this is our few brushes we're going to use, and we'll have a pencil. I'm just using a regular pencil here. Any old pencil will work. You have your office pencils, there's retractable pencils. So I have a few different pencils. I usually use a couple of different ones. There's office retractable pencils here, so there's a couple of those I use. These here work great too, so I might just use, maybe I'll use this one here for drawing. So in essence, we're going to do a couple figures. So these figures I traced from a book that I have, an art book. I traced with Sharpie marker onto acetate, which is plastic film. You can buy that online, acetate. Works great. You can use nail polish remover to clean off any Sharpie markers. Any Sharpie marker that you draw on your acetate plastic, you can use a cotton ball or a paper towel or whatever and wipe off the Sharpie marker, and then you can start another drawing over top. So you can reuse this over and over and over again. So it's really a great tool to have as a beginner artist. If you're just starting out as a watercolor artist, you want to have a couple different options. So maybe if you want to do a couple really interesting figures and you're having a hard time getting a feel for the figures and getting those rendered correctly, you can always trace over a drawing you might find in a magazine or a book or online, and you can do that, and then you can take this and put this into your painting, and then you can go underneath the plastic and then just trace from the plastic underneath, and you can kind of get a really nice, we'll show you how to do that in just a second. So when you're first learning to draw and paint and watercolor, you just need some extra tools in your studio or wherever you're working, in your kitchen or in your living room, wherever you have your table set up or your art supply set up. You have a couple extra things like this around to help you to render some paintings a little better, so maybe you'll be happier at first, and you also get used to if you're tracing, with this type of setup with some plastic, you're still getting the practice in of looking and seeing how you will do your figures if you're going to be rendering figures like this. So it all works to the good for your artwork. So you don't have to feel like you're cheating or anything like that, and trying to do things that, you know, an easy way out or anything like that. No, it's just that when, you know, I've done tracing many times myself, especially if I had someone ask me to do like a art project for them, for their business or whatever it was. If I had a hard time doing figures, let's say, I would just use acetate like this and then trace to get some good figures in the artwork I was creating for them, because I wanted to have a really good result for their artwork that they were, you know, hiring me to do. So I won't be having an ego about it or having an attitude and saying, well, you know, I'm just going to do this artwork, and if they don't like the figure that I'm painting in their something they've hired me to do, then that's too bad. No, I say, let me do a really great looking figures in their project that they've hired me to do. So if I have to use some helpful things like this, I do it. So don't worry about it. If you use some of this type of thing, don't feel that you're trying to get away easy. You do that in the beginning when you're first starting out. So we'll use those figures in just a second. So first what we'll do is we'll do a simple house type thing. Here we're going to do just a simple, like this. So we're going to do a kind of like an interesting country house. And there's a roof over here. And another roof here on this side. This is going to be a fun house here. We're going to have a front door and some steps here. Small roof over this here. Like that. And a couple posts here in front for the little shed roof over the top of the door here. And a window, a rectangular window. And this is really kind of simple, just a couple windows on either side of the and then maybe I'll have to use my eraser over here. I think I made this roof a little bit incorrect. They should be kind of more level, like straight across like this, not really tipped. This part should be straight across. This one's okay. That one's a little better. So this one here, I had a little issue with that one. And then there's the peak of this part of the roof here. And maybe there's a small vent up there. And that's our basic simple house. And we're going to do some figures here. So let's do our figures like so. So we'll just make our figures like they're walking toward the house. So for scale reasons, we have to move our figures to where they look in correct proportion to the house. And I think that looks pretty good. Like that. I think that looks good there. So I'm going to tape that down like that with the plastic. And then I'm just going to lift up. And with the light, it actually, with the light above me, we're working with a fluorescent lamp above my table here. I can actually see the shadow on the paper if I lift it up carefully, just enough. So that's all I do is I just kind of follow the shadow that's on the paper from the plastic. And then I can just get a basic, simple and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to kind of get the general shape of things here. Yeah, sometimes you might have to do a few lines, and once we paint over it, you won't see those additional lines. Okay, there we go. There we go. A light sketch using the acetate paper, plastic film. So there I have my figures rendered really nicely. And let's make a sidewalk here. Like that. So we're going to make a sidewalk like so. And maybe we'll have a bush over here, another bush here, a couple bushes here. Just making some fun bush type shapes. We're going to paint over this, so it's not going to really be too we're not worrying too much. We're just making a little shape of a bush. We're going to paint over the top of it, and you won't even see the pencil lines. And we're just getting in our basics here. And then maybe there's some mountains over here in the background, like that, and that's it. All right, so we got our pencil sketch in of our country house, and you take your time with this. Get your sketch in pretty close. You can even make a simpler sketch if you want. You can go with just if you want, you can make more of a simple, maybe just a simple, maybe a house like this with a roof like this. This is more, a little simpler version of a like a country house type of thing, with a door here, maybe a couple windows like so. And you could do that design for your maybe another window here. And you could do this design as well. And you might not even do the figures if you feel you're not up to doing some figures for your painting. No big deal. Those of you that want to go for the gusto, go for the gusto. Have a great time with it. Do some figures in your painting too. I always leave, a lot of times I leave figures out of my paintings because I'm always, I would do the figures usually last in my paintings, and so I don't put them in a lot of times because I'm kind of rushed and trying to finish up my paintings. But they're always fun to add into your paintings. Figures are great, and there's so many great watercolor artists out there that use figures in their paintings, so I like to try to do the same, put in some figures. But if you feel they're too difficult right now, if you're just starting out, then you don't worry about it. I think another thing I would do over here is I think I made that wall a little bit angled the wrong way. So this would look more like this here. So this wall, part of the roof here, should be angled in a little bit, or like this too, not like this. So once I'm done drawing my country house here, then I look at it and say, can I change a few lines to make it look a little better? Or I might have, just wasn't concentrating perfectly and I went off on a line. But I don't do too much erasing. If I get things pretty good, I leave it as it is. And we're just going to take a quick break once we do our pencil drawing and we get that done. It's always a good thing to take a break because this way, sometimes you get a little tight and you feel a little tense when you're doing drawings, pencil drawings, especially if you're just starting out. You're trying to get a good result, and it can be a little challenging. So even if you can, don't worry about it. If it takes you, maybe two 15-minute or two 20-minute segments to get your drawing done with your pencil drawing with a break in between those two 15, 20-minute segments, that's fine. Especially when you're first starting out. You want to take breaks, relax, sit down, or stand up, stretch, whatever you want to do. And then you come back and work a little more. Then you take another break. And then now we're going to come back. Once we take a break now, we'll come back and we'll start painting. And then you'll see that we're going to take maybe a break or two as well as we do the painting. So you take as many breaks, as many as you need, or as little as you need. Some people, you might not need to take as many breaks. Some of you might want to take more breaks. It's all up to you. You're the artist. You got to figure out how much rest you'll need in between working as you go along through your painting. To get a good result. Usually I find that if I keep working and working and working for a long period of time, then I start to have problems, and I sometimes have more of an issue trying to keep my painting looking good. I make more mistakes if I keep working and I don't take breaks. But everyone's different, so you might not need as many breaks as I do. Just bringing it up so hey, if you need to take breaks, do it. And we'll be right back. All right, we're back and we're going to get started here. We're doing the extreme beginners, painting and drawing. So we're getting started here. We got our pencil drawing completed. We're good to go with that. And we're going to start We're going to do this one alla prima, which means we're not really doing a glazing technique. We're just going to go into the painting and start painting at any given location we like to, that we feel comfortable doing, and then we work from there and just work out and do all the painting at one time. So I'm looking at my brushes here, so I'm going to find my prang brush here. And we're going to start with maybe the roof and the we'll start with the roof area of the country house here. So we'll have some orange for the roof, some brown, some orange, some orangey red. So I'm just going to, this always helps if I take a spritzer bottle and spritz on top of the colors. Much better. Okay, so we got a nice color for the roof. Some reds, some browns. We need some blue in there too. We want to have warm and cool everywhere. There we go. So I'm just mixing all of those 3 or 4 colors, orange, orangey red, red, and a touch of cerulean blue. It looks like a cerulean blue. This is like a lighter blue, a bluish green, like a turquoise color. And then I'm just going to go in and do these parts of the roof here. And I have my prang round brush. And what's really nice about this is when you're just starting out as a watercolor artist, this helps a lot if you're using a brush like this where it's a smaller brush and it's a synthetic brush, so it doesn't hold that much liquid. So when you're doing your paints and you're grabbing your paints out of your palette, it's not going to have too much water where it's dripping all over your watercolor paper. So you'll actually have a good time learning watercolor when you're using this brush right here. And then it allows you to just work in little bits and sections like this. You can go straight into your palette too as well to get some more exciting color if you want. And I rinse my brush off a little bit, and then I sometimes have a tissue, or you can have a sponge next to your water container, or a tissue, and you just dry off a little bit of paint or water onto your, a little bit of the water off of your brush, and then you can go in and get some paint. And then there we have some more. Okay, let's do our chimney. This is more of a red brick chimney up here, so we'll just do our red brick chimney like so, like that. And then maybe we have an orange clay pot on top, like so. And we're going to continue with a little bit of shadowing. Maybe we'll use some purple, blue, purple, a little bit of orange to make like a little bit of a grayish color there. I dry off my brush, the water. When I rinse my brush, I dry it first a little bit, then I go into my paint. And I'm going to do a little shadow under here. So we're just going to pretend there's a little shadow underneath the eave of the roof here. Like that. So we just put a little shadow there. Then we go in and infuse a little bit of warm orange color maybe in there too. Just to give it a little change so everything doesn't look too similar. You want to kind of always make some changes within washes, colors, dark and light, warm and cool. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to let that dry. So we'll stop working in this section. We'll just leave that shadow under the eaves of this roof. We'll let that go right now. And then we're going to start, maybe we'll do the windows. So we're going to use a little darker wash here, some black, maybe some green too. Windows will pick up the green trees and colors of the greens in the and the sky colors. So you can be pretty certain most times your windows are going to pick up the sky colors. So our sky's going to be a blue like this. So let's put some blue and green in our windows. Like that. Just to get some color on the windows. And there's an approximate is good. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's good enough. We kind of get the idea of the windows, the shapes. They're squares basically. Rectangles, I guess. And we can also start working in our mountains in the back. That's going to be a purplish color, so we'll get our purple. And this will dry. This purple is going to dry lighter. And I'm also going to put in some greens into that. A little bit of that green color here I have on the palette. A little bit of a leftover color that seems to look pretty good. Then as we get over here towards the bottom, then we can start doing some more vibrant greens, which are more closer to the like so. And then as we get even closer, more yellow in the green. And as as you're starting out and just beginning in watercolor, you can always remember a good thing to just remember. A very simple rule is your distance colors when you're working with anything like with landscape paintings like this or cityscape paintings. The further the things that you're painting, the further they are away from your point where you're drawing. Like let's say this is your foreground, you're very close part of your painting here. This is closest to you as if you're sitting here painting this scene. The things that are closest to you are going to be a little darker and a little warmer in color. More darker, in tonal value, and a little bit warmer. And then as things go into the distance, they're going to get cooler. So you'll have more, the mountains here are purple and bluish colors because those are in the far distance away. The mountains are far in the distance. And then even some of these, you can add a couple extra mountains over here that are even lighter yet, like that. So you kind of get that feel of the mountains in the distance are purplish and bluish because it's far in the distance, way behind this house here, way far back, those mountains there. Those are the bluish colors, the cool colors. And then as you get closer here, right next to the house, these are your greens that are very warmer looking. They've got more yellow in them, more warmer colors, like that. And then you can just kind of scribble in some bushes, like that. So you have your distant mountains, some bushes, some fields here maybe. I'm just erasing, this is like a way you can erase when you're doing watercolors. if you add a little water with your brush, some clean water to a little bit of your paint, you can actually wet it a little bit and then lift it up, and then it becomes like an eraser, and then you can make a field. So now I've just made a little field in the distance there. I'll do the same over here. There we go. And now we have a field. So now we have a really interesting stepping back of the scene with a field in the back here, some bushes in the foreground here, and then in the far distance we have our mountains. And we're really coming along nicely. We have our roof and everything done there. Let's work on our figures. Why not? Let's have a fun time. Let's make some interesting colors. So we'll have a nice grayish brown jacket here. And maybe some blue jeans. Let's have a blue jean color there, like that. And we'll have and then we'll have maybe a purpley red coat, maybe. Purpley red coat, and then maybe so. And we'll do some hair, some dark hair here. And maybe some lighter hair here. And then we'll do a little shadowing. And the light's going forward. The light's going forward, so I'm going to put a little shadow in the front of these figures like that. And if the hair or something, if you need to lift up a little bit of paint, not a problem. You take your tissue and you just make a little round kind of a shape with your tissue like that. And you just lift up a little bit of paint. So if you have an area where the hair starts to go outside the bounds of where you wanted it to be, that's not a problem. You can always lift up a little bit and like that, so you can adjust as you go. And this is really good. I think we're really coming along beautifully with this. Now the thing is, let's use a larger brush now, because we're going to do the sky. Let's do the sky wash. And let's use our larger flat brush for this, like this. So right now what I'll do is I'm just going to take some water, and I'm just going to clean up the palette a little bit, because we've mixed a lot of colors. Once you mix a lot of colors, it's always good just to give yourself another fresh bit of palette to work with. You can leave some colors in. Maybe, let's say I want to leave some of my darks in there. That's fine. We can leave that one in the way that is, but maybe some of the other sections we just clean up a little bit. And let's get a nice sky wash going. So we'll use some of that. A little bit of mix in there is not going to hurt our sky. We always want to kind of gray down our sky wash a little bit too. We don't want to go too bright. So let's mix in some various blues. A little bit of brown in there. If it's too much, you go with another well. with blue like that. And then we can mix in with this a little bit too, like that. Okay, we're good. Let's get that sky wash on there. Just randomly put it on. Don't fuss with it. Just look, I'm doing this. Just swish it around, take your brush. Main thing is get your darks up top, on the top of your sky. That's your darkest area you want for your sky. And then as you come down lower in the scene, your sky will get lighter. So the sky is pretty much mostly, if you look, it's always darker up top, like that. You can even put a little bit of grayish looking clouds in there. That's not going to hurt anything. And you leave some white paper, and then you just lightly get some of that wash and bring it down like that, but be very careful not to overdo it. You can also now take a tissue and pick up some of those puddles, and a tissue can make a great way to, it's like it's another brush for you. You can actually use your tissue like a brush. You can fold it up and ball it up like this, and then sort of soften up these clouds and these lower colors like that. And there you have it. You have an exciting sky with lots of variation. Just like that, lots of variation to it. You use your tissue a little bit to maybe make some clouds or some softening of it, of the sky. And that's perfect. And then here, let's get some grass in the foreground here. Let's get some greens up here. There's that really bright, warm green, and then there's a cooler green here with a little more blue in it. So that's a cooler green, and then this is a warmer green. And we'll start out with our cooler greens, even a little bit of blue in there. And we'll start out here with our big brush. And look at that. We can just use that brush like that. Just move it all around different ways. Go around the road, that little pathway, like that. Then as we get closer to the closest to us, we're going to go with the warmer greens, and we're going to mix in some yellow too. And that's going to make a effect of it feeling like it's closest to us, it's warmer. And then as it goes in the distance over here, it looks more cooler. So it's further away, cooler green. And then here the green looks more yellow. We added more yellow to the green. That makes it look and then we just paint right up next to the figures. Like that. It's not a problem if you get a little bit of paint on the figures. It kind of makes it a nice blend in if you kind of fuse these grass colors in with your figures. Actually, that looks pretty good. And there we go. And then some cooler greens here. You could leave a little light highlights around the tops of the figures if you want. Or you can blend them in and put a little bit of white paint over top later. Okay, so there we go. And then we're going to get some brown, some green, some brown, some orange. And we're going to do some sidewalk colors here. There we go. And again, you can use your tissue to blot up a little bit of color if you have to. Like that. Okay, so, and I think that looks pretty good. You can even add in a little bit of little bit of highlights, like with some darker darks, you know, along the bottom of the house. Then you can do a little bit of maybe some orange. A little bit of orange for the house, just to give it a little bit of color, like that. I hope you're liking this and having a fun time. And again, this is just when you're just starting out in watercolors, you know, have fun with these washes. Let things dry. So you can always hear my figures weren't quite dry enough. So when I went over here with this road, you did see how the figures blended into the road mix a little bit. The road wash that I did, not a problem. You can let that be as it is. It's kind of a loose painting here. This is more of an abstract kind of painting where it's a little, you're kind of letting the watercolor have its fun, and it's kind of blending around. And the thing I suggest a lot too, if you can, is try to tape the borders of your painting. Try to tape the borders of your painting, because when you peel off the tape, it looks so much better. You have a little bit of a border around your painting. It almost looks like a finished, like it's got a mat on it. You know, many times when a painting comes out really good, we'll put a mat and a frame on it. Well, even when you're practicing, if you have a little bit of tape on the outer borders of your painting, once you lift up that tape, you're going to notice it looks so much better. Let's do that. We're finished here. You know, you could do a few more details to this, but this, again, is a practice exercise. This is not an award-winning painting we're trying to do. We're just getting used to the washes of our watercolor techniques and methods. And so when I peel off this tape, you'll see it looks much better now. We kind of have a finished border around our painting. And I hope you'll try this painting and have fun with it. Try it a few different times, maybe some different colors you want to try. You can kind of see I could have let things dry, so that's the only thing I would say with watercolor is here I kind of pushed the envelope, so to speak, and I was trying to go pretty quickly through this video, and sometimes you'll notice some of the washes did get a little bit you know, fuzzy around the edges. So if you want to avoid getting some of those fuzzy edges, you just let your paper dry a little more. You might have a blow dryer. You can blow dry off some areas when you're done. That's why the glazing technique is a good technique to use. If you're a beginner watercolor artist, trying to paint through the whole painting in one go is kind of tough. And especially too, like here, this watercolor paper is a little difficult to work with. It doesn't have really good, strong fibers in it. So when I go to put a wash on it and then I add a little extra water to it, it kind of just blossoms out and, you know, has like that mushrooming effect or that cauliflower effect where it kind of just, you know, diffuses out into the paper into other areas. But overall, I think this looks pretty good. We could add with our smaller brush here, we could just get a little more, we could put a little more of a border here, you know, just to add a little bit of, and there's, we could add a little bit of a detail to the bottom of the steps here, so we could put shadows under there, like that. And maybe a little, this is still a little wet, so you can kind of see I went to go put a little bit of a handle on the door, and it just, so that's sometimes where you can let things dry a little bit. So take your time, let things dry as they go. And I'll put a couple for the vents up here, for the attic vents here. We'll put this here, some lines there. But I think overall, it's a fun painting to try, and if you're just starting out and you're an extreme beginner, this is the kind of fun stuff you want to work with. Have a good time, don't worry about things, and again, try to use some acetate, if you can get yourself some acetate plastic, so you can do some tracing. for your paintings. So if there's anything that's really a tough thing for you to draw, but you still want to tackle the painting portion, you can get a little bit of drawing done on some acetate and then use that like we did with the figures to get a really nice effect with your drawing, and then you can go over it with your paints, and just so you won't be kind of like unhappy that you can't paint something you want to paint. Some of you might get a lot more excited about the painting aspect, and you're not feeling so great about doing the drawing portions of this, and that's not a problem. Drawing takes, years to build your skills, so you just keep doing it a little bit every day, and you'll get there. And in the meantime, if you do need to use some tracing effects and tracing techniques to get some drawing things done that you need to, you do it. All right, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching. And hey, if you want to see more videos like this, all you have to do is just click that subscribe button here on the right-hand side. We're making videos like this every week. And this Extreme Beginner series is perfect for those of you that are just started now and you're just looking to get some basics going and having some fun with your watercolor set and your paper and your brushes and your pencils, and just, taking your time with it. There's no rush on anything when you're starting out with watercolor. It takes years and years to get familiar with it, used to it. A lot of stuff to learn, but you just go a little bit at a time and you'll get it. No problem at all. You will absolutely start the journey now, and you'll just continue on your journey, and you'll learn a couple things here and there every time you're painting. Trust me, sometimes you might feel you're not making progress, but that's not true at all. Every time you pick up your brush and your paint and you start working with watercolor, you're going to make some mental notes inside your brain, actually, and your brain will get used to the colors, the washes, the water. It's really a thing where a lot of times, trust me, you won't feel like you're making progress, but you are always making progress. Whenever you're picking up your brushes and your paint and your pencils and your drawing, you're making progress, and you'll see after some time, you'll start to see it compile. You'll get better and better results as you go. So just keep sticking with it. Stick with us here. We're here every week for you, every month, every year, year after year. We're going to be here creating paintings. Watercolors are key focus on this channel. So don't worry about that. We're going to stick with watercolors, and we'll have a great time together. Okay, so we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.